do that. Okay. Officially welcome everybody to our meeting and your flexibility again in new password requirements. And so we'll be on top of that moving forward. Let's kick off by the Pledge of Allegiance to start.
Okay. We're going to do this one.
Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. See, I told you a while ago, one day I was going to think about it and forget the words. So I just did that. So, oh my goodness. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. I've lost it, folks. Who
And
wants to say
the country for which it stands.
For which it stands.
One nation.
One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Linda. Boy, that just totally went out of my head. Alrighty. With that, Julie Hilty has our invocation and words of inspiration for us today. Julie?
Yes. I especially want to pray that we take a deep breath, pray for patience and peace today, and offering ourselves grace as well. I am excited to be offering a prayer up for a prayer of journey and a prayer for pilgrims, since our topic today is the El Camino journey. So please pray in the manner in which you're accustomed to with me. God, we pray that you will be our companion on our journey, our guide at intersections, our strength during fatigue, our protection in danger, our refuge on the way. We pray you will be our resource on our itinerary, a shadow in the heat, our light in the darkness, our consolation in our discouragements, and our strength in our intentions, so that with your guidance, we may arrive safe and sound at the end of our journey, enriched with grace and virtue, strengthened with gratitude, secure and filled with joy. In Jesus' name I pray.
Thank you, Julie.
Yes.
So we have several we have several visitors to start with, several guests, and I'd like to start by Chang introducing her guest to us today.
Hi, everybody. President Sue. My guest today and very good friend is Dewey Whitten, who is the owner of Salem Real Estate Group. So please join me in welcoming Dewey.
Yeah. Welcome, Dewey. And Dewey is a longtime board member of my Boys and Girls Club Board of Directors, and just a really valuable partner and stakeholder with the club. So it's great to have you here, Dewey. Ron, you have a guest as well. Ron, can you hear me? I think you're muted. Yeah, there you go.
My guest is my wife, Kathy, who is sitting in the other room. She was my companion on our Camino 2 years ago, and the one we just finished last year on the Portuguese Camino.
She's waving at us, Ron. Yeah. Great. Welcome, Kathy. It's good to see you. We have a visiting Rotarian in Mary Louise Van Natta. So thanks for joining us today, Mary Louise. It's good to see you. We have one, for right now, as far as I know, we have one club announcement, and I'm going to hand it over to Justin Tyler.
Good afternoon, fellow Rotarians, President Sue. My name is Justin Tyler. I'm speaking on behalf of the Hands-On Committee. We have our first volunteer function of the COVID era. It will be taking place on Wednesday, October 14th from 5:30 to 7 o'clock at the Deepwood Gardens, where we will be placing gravel on the Lord and Shriver Conservancy footpaths. The City of Salem will be providing all the gravel and implements needed. We just need you to make sure you bring a mask, gloves, and your energy. You're welcome to bring a friend or a family member. And if you have any questions or concerns, please bring it up to myself or Adam Kohler. And again, we appreciate your support as always. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Justin. I'm looking forward to that. So off to Ozzy and our bell ringers.
Good morning. Brenna Bacham is ringing the bell to celebrate Women's Worth. It's the 5th time the H Group, Collier Law, and Willamette Valley Hospice have teamed up to bring this free seminar to our community. This event is designed by and for women to tackle issues of financial, estate, and end-of-life planning. They provide actual steps for every woman, regardless of their age or stage in life. Join them on October 20th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. They've adapted to a virtual session, so even if you can't make the live event, register and you'll receive a recording after the fact. Bren has put the link in the chat. It's www.womensworth.net. Please feel free to share it with your mom, sister, best friend, or partner. Let's continue to empower the women we are and the ones we are blessed to have in our lives. Ring the bell for Women's Worth. Allison Kelly of Liberty House is ringing the bell to thank all the generous Rotarians who participated in Liberty House Virtual Champions for Children luncheon in September. We hope you enjoyed the hearing. We hope you enjoyed hearing from our staff members. Your support for the children we serve and the programs we offer goes directly to help the most vulnerable children in our communities and helps us to provide healing therapy in order to strengthen families. We couldn't do it without you. We are so grateful for your partnership, friendship, and support. Thank you. Ring the bell for Liberty House, excuse me. Bill Hansen is ringing a bell in recognition of Barry Nelson's leadership and untiring effort in bringing the Jerry Frank Pavilion to fruition. It's a $100 bell ringer. Ring the bell for Barry Nelson. I am ringing a $100 bell ringer this day. It's my October Rotary food budget. Ring the bell for Rotary.
Sorry to ring over the top of you, Ozzy.
No problem.
Are there any bell ringers from the floor? You can pop them in the chat. We'll give you a sec. And it looks like folks are now sitting in the waiting room, so we've got folks still trickling in here. All
I
righty.
think Allison Kelly had a bell ringer.
Did you have an additional one, Allison, or did Ozzy get you?
Yeah, no, Ozzy got it. Thank you so much. Just wasn't make sure.
Great, thank you.
Hey, President Sue, this is Lauren. I'm sorry, I'm trying to chat and can't get it done. But I do have one bell ringer. Sean and I celebrated our 5-year anniversary on Saturday. So I'm going to ring the bell for that.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Madam President, this is Ryan Collier. I have a bell ringer for the floor too. On October 5th, my wife Holly and I, it was actually the 30th anniversary of my very first date, which was the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So not the official wedding anniversary, but October 5th was the night that I took Holly to go see The Hunt for Red October on campus. And from that point on, it was all uphill.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ryan. All righty. Well, let's move on to our oh.
May I interrupt, please?
Sure.
Those of you that have done bell ringers from the floor, if you could send those to me at OzzyRose.net, OzzyRose@Comcast.net, then I can get them to folks to put them in our document that comes out this week, please.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ozzy, for the reminder. All righty, so I'm going to hand it over to past President Mark Wulf, who's going to introduce our program and our presenters. So here you go, Mark.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Thank you, President Sue. I would like to introduce the head table. Linda Norris is one of our speakers. Linda did the Camino Francés, the most popular Camino, in 2017, and she went back in 2019 and did the Portuguese Camino. Ron and Kathy Kelemen did the Camino Francés, the popular one, in 2018, and then they went back in 2019 and did the Portuguese Camino. Not at the head table, but members that have been on different parts of the Camino are Patrick Vance and Mary James. And I think they both went in 2017. I did my first Camino in 2017 and enjoyed it. Went back in 2018 and 2019. I was scheduled to go back this year, but the Camino kept me home. Now, Linda, how are our slides coming? I don't see them.
Linda, your mic is muted.
So is Jessica there?
Yes.
So I hit screen share. Just one second. I'm sorry.
Is it okay if I continue talking while we're getting the screen?
Can you see that? Excuse me, just one second. Can you see that, Jessica?
No, you're not sharing your screen yet.
Okay, hold on for just 1 second, Mark.
Rather than have silence, and in the interest of time, I'll start talking.
How's that? Can you see it?
No.
No.
Oh dear.
If you can't figure it out, I can share it for you.
Would you please?
Sure. Are you ready for me to pull it up, Marcus?
Yes.
Okay.
You may call me Mark.
Okay. Your name is written as Marcus on your Zoom.
I'm not smart enough to change that.
Okay. You can go ahead and keep talking, and I'll pull up your slides for you.
Okay. One of the questions people ask at first is, what is this? It's called the Camino de Santiago. What is that? Well, Camino is Spanish for road. De is of, Santiago is St. James, also known as the Apostle James the Greater. The Camino de Santiago is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. There we go. And let's go on to the second picture. All right.
And Jessica, if you could put it on slideshow, please. Or play.
Click play.
Oh, okay.
And Jessica, can I advance the slides, or will you need to do it?
I don't think you're going to be able to from your
Okay,
end.
I'll just hold my finger up then when it's time.
Okay.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. So the Camino is an extensive, this is from the UNESCO site. It's an extensive interconnected network of pilgrimage routes in Spain and beyond Spain. You can start in Portugal, as three of us have done. You can start in England. You can start in Scandinavia. There are people, I had dinner one night with a woman who walked out of her house in England and started walking and kept walking for 3 months.
You can advance, Jessica.
It's a route that's 1,200 years old and about 500 miles long. Why did I do it? I did it for the adventure, and I repeated, okay, this, we'll talk about this slide. This shows various routes, but circled is what is known as Camino Frances, the French way, and it's called that because it starts in France. And the first leg is up over the Pyrenees into Spain, and then you turn west and keep going. So I did it the first time for adventure, and I went back because it's kind of a party that you just have to, I don't think of it as a walk. It's just a party that you have to walk to get to the next stage of the party. The first year when I was on my way, I had this strange sense that at that very moment, there were people from all over the world that were headed for Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France. And together, the next day, we were going to start the next wave of the Camino. So strangers from all over the world, but we would start off the next morning and start walking, and in a matter of hours or days, we would become friends. And it's kind of like going to camp as a kid, but it's just a unique experience of people from babies to people in their 90s. So all ages from all over the world.
Next.
Yeah, next slide. That just shows the various Caminos. Santiago in the upper left-hand corner is where the remains of St. James are said to be, and that's the destination. No matter where you start, the destination is the same, Santiago.
Next.
Okay, many different ways to do the Camino. The most popular way, of course, is walking. Over 90% of the people walk, about 8% bike, and then there's a very small percentage that go by horseback. Actually, more than horseback in recent years are wheelchairs. And one day I was walking up a long incline, not dissimilar to the one on the left there, and I was buzzed by a guy on a bicycle and a guy in a motorized wheelchair. They just went right by me up the hill. But walking is, I believe, is the most fun way. It's the greatest experience. Next slide. From Saint-Jean in France, Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port to Santiago is nearly 100 or nearly 500 miles. If you go on to Finisterre, which means Finnish earth, what was thought to be the end of the earth, then it's over 500 miles. The other Caminos are longer or shorter, depending where you stay. The range, how much do you do a day? It's up to you. Some people take days off and do 0 miles. Others go just a few, see something they like, decide to stop. The rule is listen to your body. When your body says stop, stop. But the average mileage is 12 to 15 miles per day. Next slide. This is my second Camino. I fell in with a group that was traveling longer distances than what I planned, but I thought they were interesting and I decided to go with them. So walked off and left a bunch of people. But the fellow on the left is from Russia. The one in the middle is from New Zealand. The woman is from Hungary. So it's truly an international experience. And that's the cathedral in Santiago behind us. Next slide.
So let's see, am I unmuted?
Yes.
Okay. Kathy and I first heard of the Camino in 2012. It was kind of an off-handed comment from the sister of somebody we were camping with on the Metolius River. And then about a year later, Mark Wulf put together a program for our Rotary Club on the Camino, and Kathy and I attended it and decided, you know, this really isn't for us. It looks really boring. And about the same time, we had friends that were doing the Dolomites hut to hut and doing these really nice hikes in the Alps. So we just kind of put it out of our minds. And then it just, things kind of happen in terms of random meetings with people. And Mark started doing his Camino, and I started following him on Tumblr. And by the way, Mark, I found your Tumblr account today, finally. You got to spell it Mark Wulf, M-A-R-K, and not Marcus. He has some great pictures there, markwulftumblr.com. But, and again, we weren't that concerned. 2018 was the first calendar year of our retirement. And we already had a trip to a Willamette service project to Tanzania planned, and then a trip to Nicaragua to visit a couple of Peace Corps volunteers, and then a hiking trip in Japan, and then our daughter's wedding in UK and Scotland trip. And we invited Linda over for dinner in January. The leaves were all off the trees, and they had just got the lights on the Peter Courtney Bridge installed. And so we invited Linda over for dinner. And she talked about her experience there. And Kathy asked, well, what do you miss the most? And Linda said, I miss getting up every day, lacing up my boots, and walking. And somehow that just resonated with us. And so we thought about it on our other trips. And then we met with Linda again sometime in June, I guess. And we got really, really fired up. And so by late August, we were there, and it was the best trip of our lives, and hardly a day goes by when either of us think of it. By the way, that picture on your right was us exactly 2 years ago yesterday. Next.
So I first read about the Camino about 10 years before I retired. And I knew immediately it was something I wanted to do and hoped I'd be able to do. I decided I would need to wait until after I retired because I didn't want to get phone calls and emails from work while I was on the Camino. And so I waited. The first year after I retired, I had to have knee surgery, and so I had to wait another year to go. I've been to Spain before and loved it. I still absolutely love Spain, and I speak a little Spanish, so I also wanted to see if I could improve my Spanish. Next. So there are a lot of reasons that people walk the Camino. Sometimes it's to give thanks. I've met a lot of people on the Camino, young people from different countries who quit their jobs because they weren't getting any satisfaction and decided to walk the Camino until they decided what to do next. Some people just walk the Camino. I've met one woman who has just finished her 10th Camino. I saw on the Portuguese Camino last year, talked with a man who sold everything, and that's what he does. He just walks back and forth on the Camino and different routes. So people go for a lot of reasons. I think I mostly started as a way to start a new chapter in my life. I wasn't working for the first time and was retired, and it just felt like a great release to do this. Next. So there are a lot of things that make the Camino unique. You're walking all the way, as you saw on the maps, from one side of Spain to the other, going through different regions. There's just so many wonderful things to see on the Camino. But the best thing is the experience of this international community that you have that I don't think is possible to experience in a different way. Next. So people often ask me where you stay. It is possible to camp, and a few people do that, but most people stay in one of these types of accommodations. Albergues are sort of like hostels are in the United States. There are different ranges of albergues, from very, very basic to ones where you can also get a single room if you want to. Hotelitos, which are kind of like a bed and breakfast a little bit. And then of course there are hotels, and then paradors, which are castles that have been restored to be a very nice hotel. So there are lots of ways. The rooms are typical of these two. Next. Here are some others, and you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, that's a picture of Kathy hanging up her clothes, but I have also used that very same clothesline. Usually at the end of the day, you stop and wash your clothes, sometimes in the sink, sometimes in the shower, sometimes in a tub outside the building, once in a while in a washing machine, but there are almost never any dryers. And so clothes dry outside in the sun very easily, and that's what happens.
And it's an incentive to get to your destination earlier in the day too.
Yes, it is. And on the left, you see a typical small street running through a little village. Next. Here's are some more pictures of albergues or places to stay. The bottom left-hand photo has all of the shoes from the pilgrims who are staying there that night lined up. The first thing you do when you walk into an albergue is take off your shoes, because who knows where you've been walking, and the keepers of the albergue or the hotel really don't want people walking around in their boots. So the first thing you do is take those off. You can see above the shoes elevation map of the Camino. Next.
I'd like to say too that sleep is a precious commodity on the Camino. You have people snoring, you have people getting up at 4 a.m. because they want to get an early start, and making all sorts of commotions and noise. And for 10 euros a night for a bunk bed each, Kathy and I soon figured out, well, for 20 or maybe 30 euros a night, we could get a room, and that was better. But even then, sleep is problematic. And there's also the issue of bed bugs, and it doesn't matter how little or how much you spend. I got mine about 2 weeks into the trip at a very cheap place at a large albergue, and Kathy got hers a few weeks later at a very nice place. So, you know, it's just, they're equal opportunity offenders.
Yeah, and it's just kind of, I guess, your bad luck, because on both of my Caminos, I never had experienced that and never actually ran into anyone who had. So it just depends on who was there before you, I guess. This photo is the credential that you receive when you start the Camino. You receive it from the place where you began. They stamp it to indicate your beginning point. And then you get 1 or 2 stamps a day all along the way, so that when you reach Santiago, if you want to receive a certificate saying you've completed it, they can make sure that you actually did complete the full Camino. It's only required that you complete the last 100 kilometers. The whole thing is about 800 kilometers. But in the last 100 kilometers, you're supposed to get 2 stamps a day. I got a stamp almost everywhere I stopped, because I thought they were also interesting. So, and you use your credential to check in and get pilgrim's rates at meals, and also to get pilgrim's rate at albergues. Mark, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, my experience, I thought you had to have a credential to stay in the albergues.
You do, yeah. You have to have it to stay there and to get the discounted pilgrim's meals prices.
Well, yeah, except there was one in Negrano that we stayed at. It was a newly renovated place. It was very nice. We had a private room. Turns out there was a bachelor party next door. And I went and complained, and they said, well, this is a public one. Anybody can stay here. But she assured me that things would quiet down. They would go out and party on the town, and they'll come back early in the morning. And she was right, and they did come back. It was more like 4 a.m. when they came back, just as I was really starting to get some sound sleep.
Next. This is the Compostela that you receive when you walk the Camino, when you've met all of the requirements. This is one from Ron and Kathy, and they're just beautiful documents. Next. So the Camino routine is you wake up pretty early. When I was on the Portuguese Camino, it would get to be about 90 degrees or hotter about 10 o'clock in the morning. And so I generally was up at 6 and walking for a couple of hours before dawn, as were a lot of other pilgrims. So you do take a headlight with you so you can see. You eat a very light breakfast to start with. There's usually wonderful coffee, wonderful orange juice, and a little bit of very hard crust bread. And so you start your day with that and then walk, I don't know, 2 or 3 more miles, however long, to the next town. And suddenly eggs and ham show up. And then you can eat a breakfast that'll give you enough nutrition for the day. You walk until you decide you're going to eat lunch, eat again, shower, stretch. When you get to the where you're staying that night, do your laundry, have dinner, explore the village wherever you are, socialize with other pilgrims, go to sleep. Usually people are in bed at the time. Natives in Spain are actually going out for dinner. Because you walk so far, you're usually in bed by about 9 or so. And then you get up the next day and start again. Next. So people have asked me whether you carry everything or how you do it. And most people do carry backpacks, and I did both times. I think we all did both times. But there are services where you can send some things ahead if you want to. If it's a really hot day, you really don't need to be carrying your raincoat and a warmer jacket and toiletries and that sort of thing. So sometimes you get a little bag and ship them some things ahead. With a service that costs about €5 a day when I was there, and they take it to the next place you're going to be staying. There are also taxis that middle slide all along, well, through most of the Camino, not all of it, but especially at the beginning. And Vicki and I used to call them taxi vultures because we noticed that they would be kind of hovering around the steeper slopes and to see if anybody wanted to give up at that point and be taxis ahead. Next. Way markings are all along the path. They're really, most people take maps in a guidebook, but you can generally, as you can see from the bottom left-hand corner, see from the path for miles ahead of you. And then there are all of these different versions of wayfinding signs, including at the top right, this scallop shell. That's very symbolic for the Camino. You'll see it embedded in sidewalks in towns or on posts. And the symbolism of that is one to be the hand of the pilgrim reaching out in friendship. And the other one is all of the paths that are heading towards Santiago at one point. Next. And Ron's going to talk about the people.
Well, yes, you meet a lot of, am I unmuted?
Yes, we can hear you.
Meet lots of cool people. Just randomly on some of these slides, the top left is an eccentric chap who moved from the UK to Spain, and he helped run a bar, which is a place for lunch and coffee. And it was, Mark and Linda, this was near Osabrio, just right after that path you'll see with the cows later on. And there was Rolling Stones and Supreme's music playing, and I had the best goat burger of my life. And anyway, it was his birthday, I guess, so he was hamming it up. The picture below it was a bachelor party in Pamplona, and they invited me to join them for a beer. And then the top right is what is called a Camino Angel, and he runs a free refreshment stand outside of Astorga. And you can get fruit and bananas and nuts and snacks, and he'll take donations and stuff, but he's been doing it for years, and just wonderful. Next. The two gentlemen on the left, one is a pilgrim and the other one on the right, missing a few teeth, was a very kind and friendly hostel keeper who Kathy got food poisoning the night before, and I had very severe shin splints. So he took good care of us and made sure Kathy was hydrated, and made sure that I was hydrated with plenty of sangria to wash all my anti-inflammatories down with. The center picture is a couple from Taiwan. He carried this humongous backpack. They always left no later than 6 a.m. every day. And whenever they got into a town, he would go find a watermelon somewhere. So a lot of interesting people from all over the world. Next. The two ladies in the upper left were from the Seattle area, and one of them had done it earlier and gave us a lot of great tips of where to stay. The gentleman and his daughter on the right is an ER physician. He was 72 years old, from Baltimore. His wife died unexpectedly in her sleep one night, and so he and his daughter were doing the Camino. She was doing part of it with him, and then his other sons were picking up the legs where she dropped off. So it was kind of a nice tag team thing. And then in the lower right is a family from Montana, and they were doing part of the Camino on bicycles. Next.
So I'm going to talk a little bit about the food. The food was wonderful all the way across, and there are a lot of pilgrim meals, which are sometimes about 7 to 10 euros for a dinner that includes an appetizer, a salad, soup, some type of meat, almost always French fries. I've never eaten so many French fries in my life. They come with almost every meal. Dessert and a bottle of wine for about 10 euros. And the top left was a ending meal in Santiago that we ran into. Other pilgrims had met along the way, and we all had a wonderful meal together. You can see in the middle the orange juice, the fresh orange juice, which I had 2 or 3 times every day. And then the one on the top right, I want you to know all of that food was not for me. It was for 2 people, but it was just a wonderful outdoor festival in Lyon when we were there. Next. Here's some more pictures of food, and one of the really important things when you do the Camino is you need a lot of calories to walk 10 to sometimes 18 miles a day every single day for weeks. And so you really have to learn how much water to drink and how much food to eat. And I think you could probably never eat like that again the rest of your life when you're not on the Camino.
It was definitely a calorie neutral trip.
Yeah. But everybody loses weight. Everyone loses 10 pounds or more just from the physical activity. Next. Some more food pictures, very typical of the meals. The white asparagus on the right-hand side, I think was one of the favorites. And there are olives everywhere because they're grown in Spain. Next. I'm going to talk a little bit about the scenery. This is some pictures of rivers. When you're on the Camino, you're walking often on Roman roads, across Roman bridges, and you see Roman aqueducts all the way through and Roman walls around cities. So it's an extremely historic walk and things that you probably cannot see to this degree anyplace else. Next. Sometimes you share the path with cattle, with herds of sheep, with goats. It's a farming area, especially in the Galicia area, which I think this photo is. And so people still use the same paths that is the Camino path for their day-to-day living. And at the top right is Kathy starting on the Meseta, which is the middle region of the country that tends to be more agricultural farming and flatter. Some pilgrims skipped the Meseta, but it was one of my favorite places. I would never suggest skipping it.
Actually, that's me at the top of a pass, and I'm pointing to the warning sign that says it's an 18% grade.
Yes.
And I was just so wishing I had a bicycle with me to go down that. But that's when my shin splints started.
Yes. It was a very steep uphill climb too. And we were at the top and saw some people who had packed all of their backpacks onto this poor mule, and he was carrying all of their things all the way up. But we were wishing we had seen him when we started up. Next. Some more pictures of the Meseta. It's just a magical place, and you're walking through fields and on dirt roads, and all of a sudden a white city opens up ahead of you, or sometimes you see castles or cathedrals on top of the hills. It's very magical. Next. Some more pictures. Sometimes, go ahead, Ron.
Well, I just saw some of Mark's photos today, finally, and he did his in the spring, and it was just beautifully green throughout the Meseta, whereas Linda and Kathy and ours were just kind of this amber waves of green.
Yeah.
People of my generation learned the poem "In Flanders Fields, the poppies grow." In the spring, there are red poppies along the side of the road and poppy fields. The red is just incredibly beautiful.
And sometimes, as you can see on the bottom right-hand side, the path is alongside a highway or a road. Sometimes it's across a field, all different types of terrain. Next. These are Ron's photos. Do you want to talk about where that is?
The one on the left is an old Roman road. It's on the way to Estella. And the one on the right, where going down, we were just going through extensive fields of vineyards, and that was on the way to Domingo.
Next. The one on the left, oh, go ahead, Ron.
Oh, go ahead, Linda.
The one on the left is Ron and Kathy again on the way to the top of Osabrero, which is one of the very highest points on the Camino, and it's something people kind of dread, but it's an amazing walk, and you end at an albergue that has the world's best food, I think. When we went, I didn't see it like this, because when we went, it was a sleet storm, rain and sleeting as we went up, and the rocks were quite slippery then. Next. Some more photos at the bottom. You can see a pumpkin field in the mist many times in the morning when you start walking in the mist. The middle photo is very common with tree arbors above the path, just beautiful sights. Sometimes in Galatia, the most western part of the country, the pilgrims have been walking the same path for over 1,000 years, and the path is really built down. The fields are up above it, and the paths are down because the soil is soft, and so many people have walked on them over the centuries. Next. So sunflowers, which are amazing. Mark got to see them when they were just starting to grow. Ron and Kathy and I on our trip saw them when they were dying. Sunflowers are a big agricultural product for Spain. But the thing I had never noticed until I was there is, and I had to look it up to see if it was really true or if I was just imagining what I was seeing, but when sunflowers start wilting and dying, they all nod to the east. And so we were walking west, so that was another good wayfinding method, is to see if you're going the opposite way the sunflowers were not. Next. Says Kathy cooling her feet in a provided fountain from a Rotary Club in Spain. And
there are a lot of, from the pilgrimages, even 1,000-year-old, there are water places to soak or get water for the pilgrims. And wherever we could find one, and it was the right time of day, we took advantage of it. But seems like some of the best ones we saw that weren't totally covered with green slime were earlier in the morning when we wanted to just keep going.
So can I stop? This is fascinating, but I know that there's a lot of club members that are anxious to ask you questions. So could we open it up to questions right now?
Sure.
Okay.
And actually, we could zoom, most of these are just scenery pictures, so we could answer questions as we.
Oh, great.
Jessica, if you could just click every slide every 10 seconds, that would be good.
Great. So let me get my bearings here. So if folks want to raise their hands if they have a question, or just hop in as I'm trying to get my bearings here. I was going to ask a question. Do you basically know, because you talked about you might walk, you know, average of 12 to 15 miles. For your experiences, did you plan where you were going to end up your day, or did you just kind of say, this is my goal, but if I don't get there, I don't get there? So what did your itineraries look like for landing each day?
Well,
for me, for me, we would, at the end of one day, based on how we were feeling, decide how far we wanted to walk the next day. And so we usually made a reservation.
Okay. And that slide on the right is a wine fountain. Free wine flowing out of the fountain. But the problem is we were there at 7:30 in the morning and it didn't start flowing until 8. So we made up for lost time later on in the day with 2 pitchers of sangria at our destination.
So that's not Kathy soaking her feet in wine.
Yeah,
it's actually, okay.
No, it's not. But to answer your question, we were pretty much like Linda's, but once we decided that we're so beyond the albergues, and we want to hold on this slide for a second, that we were at least 2 days out because it was really hard to get a room for 2 people, a private room for 2 people. So we started making reservations, but by then we kind of knew what we were capable of, and we, from the guidebooks, knew what the terrain was like and everything as well.
Okay.
I went alone, and I found that about half the people that started in St. John started alone, but you meet up with people, so you're not alone after that. And I kind of just went with the flow. So if I was in a group, the group would decide how far we were going to go or not. And I just kind of just went with the flow. Didn't matter.
And are you staying in contact with the folks that you met along the trail?
Some of them I am.
I am also with some.
Last year I visited one in can't even think where I visited one last summer.
Bruce asked if we were able to enjoy the wine. I definitely was. We had, the wine was served with every evening meal, and wines in Spain are just fabulous. And some people indulge a lot. We usually just have a glass of wine with dinner, but it was really delicious.
Yeah, and it was usually included, a half a carafe or a half a bottle was included with your pilgrim meal every night. And it was, for me, it was usually a big a fruity red, or you could get a white. It wasn't that good, frankly, unless you went into some wine shops and got some really good bottles, and then it was really outstanding.
Very good. Shane is asking, what mileage did you normally do, and do you train for this trek?
I did about 10 to, I think the longest day was 18, but generally about 10 to 14 miles a day, which can wear on your body, you know, day after day. And I did train for about a year before I went, which is more than most pilgrims train for, with lots of walking up and down hills and around town.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, we did some training too, and it's like a bicycle trip I went on a couple of years earlier. I asked the organizer, because it was a 800-mile trip, when will I be in shape? And he says, you'll be in shape the last day of the ride. And that was the way it was for us. We finally felt like we were in shape on day 39.
It is amazing how strong you get from the beginning of the Camino until the end. At the end, you can go up a mountain pass and hardly even notice you're doing it.
Very good.
Jane,
So-
you're in enough shape.
Yeah. You know, you just start slow and you get in shape in a hurry. But you're right, you just feel the strength coming on, and you can do a 20-mile day, get to your destination, get your laundry done, and then go sightseeing, walking around another few miles and think nothing of it towards the end of the trip.
Very good. Mark, there's a question for you. The other two mentioned it. What was your reason for taking your first pilgrimage?
Well, a childhood friend of mine had done it, and I followed her progress. And then a assistant pastor at my church announced that she was doing a sabbatical and doing the last week.
You know, the problem with that, we have several people that did just the last 60
If someone might need to mute themselves.
Kathy.
Anyway, she was doing the last week, and I thought, oh, I could do the last week.
It's kind of sad to do that.
She and her husband were on their Camino. The church showed the
So
movie
he's
The
still
Way.
on his webinar, so I'm going to mute my.
And when watching the movie The Way, I said, there's no way that I'm only going to do a week. I want to do the whole thing.
Very good.
But then after that, it's just, I fell in love with the place, obviously.
Right. It is beautiful. So several people are asking whether you think this pilgrimage is still available right now during the COVID times, and how do you see it being different now and into the future?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, not for Americans. It was closed for quite a while. People from Europe and in Spain are walking it right now. I've seen on the pilgrims on the Camino website that about 300 or 400 a day are reaching Santiago. So some people can, but we can't even leave the country or get into Spain now.
Okay, all right.
But there's something I didn't mention before. Over 300,000 people a year finish. And there are a lot of people that don't finish. So I would say around 500,000 people a year probably are on the Camino doing parts, if not all. And next year is a holy year, which the holy years have a big spike. Plus the fact that we couldn't go this year, next year is going to be a zoo if we can get in.
Yeah, I'm planning on going again in 2022. So I'm hoping that will work.
Very good. Well, thank you, Mark, Linda, and Ron. That was those beautiful photos, and absolutely, I think you gave a lot of us the travel bug to put this on our bucket list. It's just fascinating and very, very beautiful. So thank you all so much. In your honor, we'll be making a gift to our own Salem Rotary Foundation. So thank you again. That was just enthralling. I missed a guest. Deb Patterson, you have a guest with us today.
I'm sorry I was late getting on. I had a little technical difficulty, but thanks for your patience with me. And yes, my guest today again is Jason Greenwood, who is the owner and distiller of Divine Distillers. So I hope you'll all say hello to him.
No, I haven't, but
Great. Thanks, Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb. I'm glad you made it in. So, and everybody made it in. There was waiting rooms and all sorts of good stuff happening today. So next week, Past Assistant District Governor Renee Campbell will be our program chair, and we'll be hosting Dan Sokol on the topic of Braver Angels. So look forward to the e-blast to learn more about Braver Angels. And also next week, we're going to start to get our Students of the Month back. So we'll have a student from North Salem High School and Chad Toey, the principal, or a representative from the school joining us next week. So that's exciting to start to see the students. So with that, thank you again, Mark, Ron, and Linda for your fantastic presentation and letting us learn more about your travels and adventures. And with that, we'll conclude. And everybody have a wonderful day. Stay safe and take care.